currently flying, and I think you explained it, but I'll just say it one more time. The base that you're flying out of is the same base that launched to rescue your sister, and the same ship that she was rescued in. You had an opportunity to fly that at one point.
Yeah.
How cool is that? What a kind of a crazy full circle turn of events.
Oh, yeah, totally crazy. The crew here, the medic and the nurse, I got to fly with them as well. The base, the people, the hospital, everything was the exact same mission that was sent on my sister that night. The flight nurse, to this day, I just worked with him the other day. His name is Ryan. He's been here a long time. He's a seasoned flight nurse, very good at what he does, and he was on that day, and big part of the reason that she's here to this day. When you first start, as you know, like not every day do you have flights. Obviously, like today I haven't had a flight. When I first worked my first week here, the crew rotates out every day. They do at the time they did 12-hour shifts. Now they do 24s. I didn't fly for like the first 4 days when I first started working here, and so the first flight that I did was a inter-facility transport from MCR, which is where I'm at, Medical Center of the Rockies, to University Hospital in Denver. And it was the exact same crew and the exact same helicopter that saved my sister. So the medic, the nurse, and then myself. And so I remember standing down there on, the roof of that hospital being like, I did it. Like, here I am. Like, this patient, we just transported, and it wasn't some crazy scene on the side of the mountain, but I did it, and this is what I've set out, and it took me years to do, but I did it. And I have a selfie from that day. It's so funny because, my smile's like this big, and they're kind of like annoyed in it, and it's sunny out, but I will cherish that picture forever, because at that point in my mind, it was like, I'm really hard on myself, and I'm my own worst enemy. But at that point in time, I was like, you're here, Sam, like you did it.
Yeah, it's a personal victory. It's really cool. Career victory. It's an emotional victory.
Yeah,
all wrapped up in one, and that doesn't happen very often.
No,
I just want to say that it's really, your story is really inspiring, Sam. From the perspective of there's a lot of people that have had tragedy like that have never come back to the cockpit, and for you to do that is it's very inspiring and brave, I think, for somebody to live through what you did, such a tragedy, to actually step back to it. And then now what you're doing, there's not a lot of people that can say that they've come back that way, that come back that strong. So my hat's off to you for that.
Thank you.
For sure. That's,
Thank you. Yeah, it was tough in the aspect of, I said I'd never fly again, but I would still look up at helicopters, and I would still, wonder where they were going, what they were doing. And as I say, horses, I know you don't like horses, John, but it's in your blood. Like, flying is either in your blood or it's not. And you can't just turn it off. You can't just say, oh, I hate aviation. And so I found myself wanting to get back up and crawl back up into that cockpit and do it. And so there are still flights nowadays, a few that'll trigger some things, like there was a car accident last year where, the girl suffered a traumatic brain injury, and it was sad for her, but I sympathized for the husband, and I just wanted to like wrap him up in my arms and say, like, I know what you're feeling. Like, I've been there.
Yeah.
And so there are still flights every once in a while that I get that, am I doing the right thing, or am I just saturating myself in more, trauma or stress? But it's like, no, because there's the flights that I fly where the people come back and they're like, thank you for being here, and that's why I do it. But it was tough. It was tough.
Yeah. Gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah. I think, anybody that's been in aviation long enough as a pilot, you're going to lose friends, in accidents. I've lost very good friends, and it is tough. And you think about it, you go, like what you were saying, is this something that I could lose it all in just a split second. But at the same time, I think that, I know my friends would have been like, no, don't stop flying, because of this, keep flying, keep doing it.
Right.
It's one of those, very few jobs, law enforcement being another one, where we learn from others' mistakes and we try not to repeat those mistakes. And
Right.
and obviously in this situation, it wasn't even a mistake. It was literally a fluke, situation that happened in his crash. But at the same time, I think that had he still been who you married, I think he would have said the same thing, that like, you got to keep flying, you got to, stay in the game. Because I think we talked about it offline. The passion that we all have for aviation is something that I think it overcomes that if you can, and I'm not saying that people should force themselves back into the cockpit for sure, but I think with the right mindset, I think you can get back there, and you obviously did. And now look at you, you're really doing something great for your community, and
Right.
and yeah, it's really inspiring.
Thank you.
And great for yourself. Above it all, you've accomplished so much in a fairly short amount of time, considering when everything's taken place and where you are.
Yeah.
But you've flown in probably the most beautiful places in the world.
I have.
Between Alaska, Wyoming. I don't want to say North Dakota, but I'm sure it has its spots.
Yeah, South Dakota's pretty. Rapid City, the Black Hills.
Yeah.
How would you compare, your experiences flying there versus where you are now in Colorado? I mean, it's probably almost, if not as beautiful as that, but
oh, for sure.
What's your response area like in terms of geography and weather?
Yeah, it's one of the most challenging bases, I would say, in the country, because I mean, we're here at 5,000 feet, but we could be at 14,000 feet within 15, 20 minutes. And so everything between here and there, we can get called to. As you know, the very short, close in flights, at like an 8 or a 9,000, when they're only 6 minutes away, you're heavy, it's hot in the summertime. That's the challenge, as well as the microbursts in the summertime. Colorado gets these little concentrated hail storms, and they roll in, and we sit out on the hospital here with no hangar. So you're always just stressing, is this helicopter going to get hailed on? And it'll only be for like 2 minutes, but it'll come through. But so we do a lot of interfacility transports to Denver, a lower level of care to a higher level of care, or a more specialized. Our hospital here just became a level 1 trauma center. So a lot of things do come here, and we have a lot of aircraft that do come here as well. But our scene calls are pretty intense. They're up in tight areas, and the H-125 is the biggest helicopter I've flown. So I feel like the tail is huge and the rotor disc is huge compared to the 500. But we still land in some pretty tight areas, in dense trees and on the side of the road and stuff, where we pick patients up. A lot of our scene calls are, obviously we have big highways here, so you get the car accidents, but a lot of them are recreation up in the mountains. So razors, side-by-sides, we do a lot of those because people drink, they don't wear their seatbelts, and they're ejected. Boating accidents, rock climbing, a lot of rattlesnake bites too. We usually just bring crowfab to them and then transport them. Horseback riding accidents, unfortunately. I mean, horses are dangerous, and
see, the horses are after us.
Yeah, I've flown quite a bit, and I mean, you don't really fly a broken back or a leg, you fly like a broken back or a head injury.
Yeah.
And so our service area, we do about 150 miles. We'll go to Steamboat quite often. We'll go to Steamboat, Walden, Red Feather, Estes Park, and everything in between there. So Fort Collins and West. Laramie, Wyoming, Cheyenne. We actually have a sister base we just opened up 2 years ago in Cheyenne. That's Lifeline 3. And then all out east. So we do Greeley, Akron, all out east. And that's more, flat. It's still 5,000 feet, but it's flat without the terrain of the mountains. The most prominent canyon we fly in up here is called Poudre Canyon, Poudre, and it has the Poudre River that flows down it. So we do drownings, rafting accidents, and climbing. And so we fly motorcycle accidents of people who go. It's a very windy road that goes up that canyon. We have LZs all out there. And then the search and rescue flights, and that's actually what I've been really kind of getting into this last year, is there's a couple that we did last year in the Raywa Wilderness, which is pretty close to between here and Walden. And backpackers that go up there, and things happen. There was a missing kid that UC Health actually did an article on us probably 6 months ago about this. I think he was a 13-year-old who went missing, and we actually located him. And I felt so strapped. My hands were so tied because we didn't have a hoist. I can't land. I can't do a tow in. All I could do is be like, here he is, drop a lat
This is where
long,
he's at, yeah.
and then it took him like another 4 hours to hike to him. And that's kind of what has sparked my interest in getting this aviation program going for the county, because it's one of those things, like wanting to help, right? I wanted to be there to snatch that kid up and make sure he was okay, because he was scared, and I couldn't. I located him, we helped locate him, but we couldn't do anything else. I couldn't even drop him a bag of Doritos because he had been out overnight,
Yeah.
But and then we do a lot of PRs and trainings with the local fire departments here and EMS agencies, which I love those. We have great relationships, and so those mean a lot to me when it comes to training. But our service area is pretty vast. We'll be landing on the highway, here, I-25 major highway, or I-80, 287, or landing up in the mountains. We do a lot of scene calls in the mountains here in the summertime.
Are there ski resorts close enough to where you guys end up responding there quite a bit as well?
Not really where we are. We've gone a couple times, but there's Flight for Life, which is an Air Methods base, and they are more prominent down towards the ski resorts. We've done a couple of avalanche stuff, like avalanche recoveries up this way, patients from that. But I think our helicopters maybe only landed, just a handful of times at a ski resort.
Yeah, and think about your response area. High altitude, hot in the summer, cold in the winter. You got snow, and of course, wind is a big part of that.
Huge.
In fact, one of the videos on your Instagram that I saw, you're standing out in front of a ship, and your hair is like sideways. You can tell it's windy.
Yeah.
Wind is not my favorite, but I guess where you are, that's something it's normal, right? That's everyday life,
right?
For you guys.
You've flown wind in a Robbie, right? When you go to the A-Star, you're like, dang, this thing can really slice through the wind. No, we have wind. It's very windy. Like even today and tomorrow, we're supposed to get like 40, 50 knot winds. But our company cuts us off at 40 knots, and 40 knots in the Front Range is, whatever. You just crab into it. But 40 knots in the mountains can be pretty sporty. The downdrafts, updrafts. So, I don't, and then can the crew actually do their job when you're getting bumped around with 40 knot winds?
Right.
Like, are we actually providing good patient care at this point? But it's always pretty windy here. It's, the Front Range, and like now there's a snowstorm blowing in, so it's ripping today.
You talk about wind in the Robbie. I think 15 knots in the Robbie. I'm good.
Yeah, I know. Actually, today I was fueling up, and there was a Robbie out there, and it was like 9 gusting 20 or something. Just where it was like a gust and then nothing and gust, and I'm like, man, I'm so glad I'm not in that helicopter.